Yes guys, what's up? So back again with another video. As I was watching myself get demolished by Manny Pacquiao, I couldn't help but think about Amir King Khan giving Pac some problems. This is a tweet by Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, and I'm not 100% sure why. It could be the Devin Alexander win, but Amir Khan is getting talked about a lot of recent. I think that even like the haters of Amir who are hating on him and just criticizing him, they're constantly talking about Amir, and I find myself that I've done like a lot of videos on Amir recently, and Oscar De La Hoya, everybody's talking. I mean, everybody Mayweather, everyone's talking about Amir Khan. I think he's the most talked about fighter at this moment in time, and it's pretty crazy is what's going on, to be honest with you, because I think this is it in boxing. It shows that one win propels you to the top of the food chain in boxing, and everyone wants to talk about you, whether it's hate or whether it's whatever it is. It's just, what have you done for me recently in boxing? And I want to talk about this fight between Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan. I've not done a video on Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan in a good while, so I think I might as well do an updated one, because a lot's happened since my last video of Amir Khan and Manny Pacquiao. And yeah, so let's go into it. Okay, so I'm not going to say who wins this fight first, because I only make pre-fight predictions properly if a fight's made. I'll give you hints and stuff, but I'll never give a finalized prediction. Well, I don't think I do anyway, so I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to say, I'm going to weigh up a few options, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the fight. Now, first of all, Manny Pacquiao, Amir Khan. Let's take a look at where each fighter was and where they've come to now. They both used to train under Freddie Roach, and I want to take Amir Khan as the main case study we're going to look at, because they both used to train with Freddie Roach. Both had a similar style. However, Amir never really grasped the Manny Pacquiao style in the Freddie Roach camp. I mean, if you watch the mitt work from Amir, the combinations were the same, but you used to see that there was that the footwork wasn't the same. And when Manny Pacquiao throws, Pacquiao's able to throw punches with power whilst he's moving on his feet, and that's unique to him. He's able to, because he has such big calves, he doesn't have to plant his feet and throw hard punches. If you look at him on the bag, on the heavy bag, the reason Pacquiao's so dangerous is because he could throw punches where he doesn't have to load up on the shots. So if we take a look at someone like Keith Thurman, he's a hard puncher, but he loads up on shots. And over time, what happens is, when you are loading up on shots in the heavy bag, on mitt work, and you load up on shots, you develop a rotational power and a power that starts from your foot, goes up your calf, up to your quads and your glutes, up to your waist. You twist and use your shoulder and pop, and you snap. And what happens is, these muscles where you're constantly loading up on shots builds power over time. And Pacquiao, he's got this natural power where he doesn't need to load up on shots. The problem is with loading up on shots, right? When you go to a boxing gym, the basics that they teach you is don't load up, don't load up. And the reason you don't load up is because if you load up on a shot, one, the opponent can see it coming, and we saw that in the Leonard Bundu versus Keith Thurman fight. And if a person sees it coming and is a high-class fighter, then what will happen is they will just avoid it. Pacquiao doesn't need to load up on shots. He can throw punches which are hard, and his feet don't even have to be planted. This is what makes him difficult. This is why he's an 8-weight division champion. People think that you just look at about the technical aspects, and Pacquiao makes mistakes and this and that. But to be honest, that's not all there is in boxing. Sometimes an unorthodox style, like and you know what? I'm gonna quickly move on to another thing. Floyd Mayweather Sr. was dissing out Amir Khan, saying he punches like a damn washing woman, right? He was throwing shots from all over the place. Listen, right? Amir Khan, it works for him. That is his main attribute. If he threw straight punches and was a textbook fighter, he wouldn't have achieved all the accolades he's achieved in his career. That's what makes him an elite fighter on the elite level. If you let's take an example of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson used to fight square on a lot of the time, but people used to laugh at Cus D'Amato, saying, "Ha ha." Do you know that people used to laugh at Cus D'Amato's style before Floyd Patterson came along and he made him a world champion? People used to laugh at Cus because they used to think the style was ridiculous, because it's a very square on style. You're bobbing and you're weaving all the time. You're using a lot of energy, but Cus knew what he was doing, and it's an unorthodox style of fighting. Same with Amir Khan, very unorthodox. And so I want to move back onto the Pacquiao thing, right? His unorthodox style is what makes him effective. Amir Khan, and I think this is the same thing for Amir. His unorthodox style, people don't realize how unorthodox he is. From the left hooks that he throws, the lead left hooks, to the overhand rights that he throws. People don't take notice of these shots that he throws, which no fighter really currently throws. I mean, Maidana throws the overhand right, but the combination punching that Amir does and the punches that he throws all in total, the cumulative punches that he throws, the different shots he's got in the textbook, they're very different. The jab that turns into a left hook, and then the straight jab, right? You take a look at all these things. Amir is very unique in the way he fights, and I'm not exactly sure where he's picked this up from, but a lot of these little tricks he does, people don't expect it and they underestimate it, and when they jump in the ring, that's when they find out how unorthodox he is and how difficult it is. And the same thing is with Manny Pacquiao. I mean, all these YouTube channels, they want to talk about Manny Pacquiao, how he leaves himself exposed, how he lunges in, how his feet are really wide. But at the end of the day, Manny Pacquiao's an 8-weight division world champion. He beat all the correct fighters, if you will. You know, when he was in his prime, was he not knocking out all the correct fighters? Shane Mosley is an example of a correct fighter. Oscar De La Hoya, a correct fighter. Great fighters, but they're correct fighters. And when they went up against a fighter who was unorthodox, who was able to move, throw left hands, and do things which are wrong in boxing, right? Like leaving your feet wide apart, lunging in. Yeah, it's caused him to get knocked out by Marquez, but it also helped him achieve multiple accolades. He's achieved way more in boxing than he's lost. So, and I think that's the same thing for both fighters. What's made them effective has also been their downfall. But I think that Manny Pacquiao's evolved, and so has Amir. But the thing is, in 2014, Manny Pacquiao has lost a little bit of speed and what he used to have naturally before, he's lost that. And when I say naturally, I mean the speed, power, and chin, and they're like natural things what you're given, and you can build it and stuff. But like as you get older, that stuff diminishes. And I think Pacquiao's lost a little bit of. I don't think his punch output is as high, but he's evolved, because evolving is becoming better. I think he's evolved in the sense that Manny Pacquiao is now more conscious of punches coming towards him, and he's become more defensively responsible, whereas he wasn't before. And this is the improvement that Manny Pacquiao's made, but I think going up against someone like Amir, I think that wouldn't do it for him, and I think that would work against him, because I think the way for Manny Pacquiao to beat Amir, he would have to throw a very high output of punches, exchange with Amir Khan, and we saw that in the Chris Algieri fight. Although he looked tremendous against Chris Algieri, Amir Khan is no Chris Algieri. Amir Khan is a silver medalist at the age of 17. He's a multiple-time world champion. He's fought at 140, now moved up to 147. He's beat world champions at 147 now in Devin Alexander. He's beat multiple world champions at 140. Amir Khan is a proven track record fighter. Yeah, he's done a lot in boxing, and he's still young. This is the other thing now. Amir is young and he's bigger than Manny Pacquiao. He's a lot bigger. He was actually weighing in around about 155 to 157. He actually officially weighed in at 160, but taking off the gloves and stuff, he was probably about 156, 157 walking into the ring. Where Manny Pacquiao doesn't weigh any more than 144. And I think that, when you're in a ring with a person who is much bigger than you, you feel that weight advantage of that person. But I still feel the pop lies with Manny Pacquiao. The crack of the punch lies with Manny Pacquiao. And I'm not going to go upon knockdowns and stuff like that, because you have to take into account levels of opposition as well. And Pacquiao's fought Brandon Rios, Timothy Bradley. But when he's gone up against Chris Algieri, we saw Pacquiao destroy him. So it's all about levels of opposition and who's been... Like, Devin Alexander has barely been knocked down. The only person he got knocked down by was Matisse. And Amir Khan wasn't able to knock him down. But we look at Amir Khan versus Collazo. Amir Khan knocked him down 3 times in the fight. So power-wise, it's difficult to get an accurate gauge on it, but I feel that Pacquiao can throw strong shots without planting himself, whereas Amir needs to be planted firmly on the ground when he throws his shots. And I want to reverse it a little bit and go back to the Freddie Roach sparring sessions in the wildcard gym with Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan. First of all, no, Pacquiao did not drop Amir. I know that personally, so I'm not even gonna go into that. Right, I know that for a fact. He never dropped Amir. If he did, I'd know about it. He'd never dropped Amir. The second thing is this: Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan back in them days, they were really, really wild, i.e. wild card gym. They were both wild, and they were just, punching fighters used to go all out and bam, 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 bam. You throw your combo, I'll throw my combo. Now they've both changed. I think Amir has developed far more than Manny Pacquiao. I think Manny Pacquiao is just a little bit more conscious of what comes back at him, whereas Amir has developed as a fighter overall. He's now more conscious of the punches coming back, but he's also now become a counter puncher. And I think Manny Pacquiao does leave himself exposed when he does lunge in, and I think Amir would catch him coming in. Not only that, Manny Pacquiao is a southpaw. And being a southpaw in Manny Pacquiao, I think Amir would be able to deal with it a lot better than he would an orthodox fighter. I think Amir specializes in fighting southpaw fighters, and I think that would be very interesting. Amir, if you look at his track record against southpaws, it's not that he's beaten every southpaw, it's the fashion he's done it in. Look at the fashion he beat Dan Alexander in, the fashion he beat Collazo in, and the fashion that he beat Judah in. Look at them 3 fights. And you'll see that, and I think there was another fighter who we beat quite convincingly. I think it was Paul McCloskey. But we look at these 3 opponents, and you see the fashion in which Amir Khan dealt with them. He dealt with them quite easily, to be honest. And this leads me to believe Amir Khan stands a very good chance at beating Manny Pacquiao. But the difference between Manny Pacquiao and Collazo, Judah, and Alexander is Pacquiao's straight left hand. It has a ton of power behind it. Even if Amir is weighing in heavy and he isn't off balance, and I think Amir's chin is one of the most overrated things in boxing. It's just one of them things where, where people hype over something so much, like people hype over Floyd Mayweather's undefeated record over 17 years. And I get that that's a big thing, but I think that people think they take it to a different level where he's the best ever. Do you know what I mean? Like, it gets taken way out of context, and I think it's just like such a big thing. And I don't think like that means much, because Joe Kazagi was undefeated, Sugar Ray Robinson was undefeated for such a long period, Julio Cesar Chavez, but that's not what makes them great. What makes you great in the history of boxing is who you've beat, and I think that's how you should be measured. Who have you beat? Not who you've lost to. I think who you've beat is what makes you a great fighter. And so a lot of things in boxing, you win one fight, you're back up on the food chain, and you're the big name, rah rah rah. I mean, if tomorrow Amir goes and beats Danny Garcia, or Kell Brook, you know what I mean? Like, if he beats Kell Brook, right? Really, that is not, to me, beating Kell Brook is not. It wouldn't be a huge thing as much as it would be made out to be, but that would lay to rest all the British fans saying Amir has no chin. And I think that this is the thing in boxing, it's all just so much hype, and people can't look beyond the hype. I mean, this is why everybody was picking Broner over Maidana when they first faced off, because it was the hype around Broner. People believe the hype's too much in boxing. But going back to it, I think that Pacquiao, I think he carries a lot of power, and I think he can knock out a lot of 147 fighters any fighter at 147 who don't have like tremendous chins but who have average chins. I think Pacquiao has the ability to knock them flush out, and he even has the ability to knock out a fighter who has a solid granite chin. Now, when I talk about people who haven't got solid granite chins, I think we could talk about someone like Juan Manuel Marquez, who doesn't have a solid granite chin. I think someone like Mike Alvarado, he's got a solid chin and he went to war against Rios, but look how Marquez put him on his back. And I think there's multiple fighters out there who don't have solid granite chins. Keith Thurman's another one who doesn't have a solid granite chin. But then you look on the flip side, granite chins, Devin Alexander, Brandon Rios, I think they're like the granite chins. Even Pacquiao himself doesn't have a solid granite chin. I think his chin used to be good, but I mean, he got put down by Marquez. He's been put down before against brilliant opposition, but he has been put down. Talking about these two as fighting each other stylistically, I think that the speed lies with Amir, but the power lies with Pacquiao, and I think that would play a huge role, because this is the thing though, in boxing, it would take Pacquiao to beat Amir. I think he would have to knock Amir out. I think he would have to get a TKO or a KO stoppage of Amir Khan. But the thing is, Do I think he can knock Amir down? I think he can knock Amir down because not because of Amir's chin. I think because Pacquiao carries so much power. I think he's got the ability to knock Amir down. You've got to be stupid not to think that Pacquiao doesn't have the power to knock Amir down with that straight left hand that he throws. Look at what he did to Chris Algieri. How many times he knocked him down with power. And I know not all of them were legit, but Pacquiao does have a lot of pop in that left hand. But my thing's this now. Can Manny Pacquiao finish Amir off? Because people are ignorant and they talk about Amir's losses prior to Virgil. But if you look at the Julio Diaz fight, how Amir recovered against Julio Diaz coming in, I know it's Julio Diaz and Julio Diaz is not Manny Pacquiao, but Amir has advanced far more from the Julio Diaz fight. And I think the Amir Khan now, if you can't see the improvements from then and now, you're ignorant beyond belief and just a pure hater. And I think that a lot of people just genuinely just hate on Amir. I think it's just jealousy. I think a few people like SBM Boxing, for example, don't hate on Amir. And although he criticizes Amir where he needs to be criticized, he gives Amir his props. Whereas other channels, which I'm not going to name, just hate on him and ignore certain things. Like Lamont Peterson was on steroids and that there was a 2-point deduction when Amir lost that fight. And it was in Peterson's hometown. Even then, most people had him winning. And to ignore something like that and just talk saying he got beaten by Lamont Peterson, he got beaten by Danny Garcia, he struggled against Carlos Molina. No, how did he struggle against Carlos Molina is what I want to know. Did he get wobbled? Did he lose even one single round? No, he got a TKO stoppage of Carlos Molina where Broner went 12 rounds with him. So, like certain channels, they talk a lot of rubbish in regards to Amir because it's simply just a lot of jealousy and hate. And I think, I don't have that hate and jealousy, and I think people like SBM Boxing don't have that bias as well. And there are a few channels who don't have that bias, and they give Amir props and they criticize him. Like someone like Johnny Nelson is a fair person. He gives Amir the props, but he also thinks he'd get knocked out by Kell Brook and stopped. So that to me is something fair. He thinks Amir would give Mayweather a good fight, and that's a fair analysis. That's a fair analysis to me. But I think a lot of people just aren't fair and they just degrade him because they don't like him, and I don't think that's professional. But Amir Khan versus Pacquiao, I just think it's such a good fight, and I think that Pacquiao carries the power. But the thing is, your hands can't hit what your eyes can't see. Do you know what I mean? And I think Pacquiao's fast, but I think Amir's so much faster. And it's like if Darren Alexander, who is an acute boxer, wasn't able to even land really much on Amir, he was able to get a few punches on Amir's head, on the eye, and just rough Amir up here and there. Just very rarely he'd punch him. They were the only punches that were landing. There was no punches on the chin. There was no significant hard shots. There wasn't even one clean shot landed by Darren Alexander on Amir in the fight. If you look at Amir's face after the fight, there was a few bruises, but you know what? That comes with boxing. That's just, you can land one punch and create a bruise. It doesn't really mean much. It's not like Amir was bust up or anything. And I just think that if Alexander wasn't able to land on Amir flush, does that mean Pacquiao can? I think Pacquiao would land, but I don't think he can finish Amir off. I don't, because Amir knows how to survive. He knows now, because if you look at the Julio Diaz fight, what he did, he got knocked down, and I don't think it was a legit knockdown. I think that it was a legit knockdown by Julio Diaz, but I think it was to do with Amir's foot placement. I think that the Danny Garcia knockdown was a legit knockdown. That was flush. But I think that this knockdown against Julio Diaz was Amir's foot placement. I don't think he was hurt in the fight. I think his balance was way off, and if you look at it and analyze it in an unbiased fashion, you see that it was a clean punch and it wobbled Amir a little bit. But I think it was more to do with the foot placement of Amir, and that's why he went down. And I think that them things aren't there anymore. And then when Amir did go down, he got back up, and the way he survived was impressive to me, because he didn't survive against what's his name, Prescott. He did not survive against Danny Garcia, but he could have survived. He could have survived against Danny Garcia, especially. He went on. People look at the highlights and they see Amir go down again, and the fight stopped. But they don't see that Amir lasted he lasted the end of that round, he lasted a lot of the next round, and then got stopped eventually, right? It was Amir's tactics after the knockdown is why he lost. He was continuing to fight and he was taking punches, which prolonged the buzz of the initial punch that he got hit with by Danny Garcia. And I think that if Pacquiao knocks Amir down, which he's got the power to do, I think that Amir knows how to regroup, you know, because Pacquiao doesn't have one punch really knockout power. We've not really seen him land tremendous hooks, but he does have that slight one hit, boom, he can hit you and hard and hurt you, and then he can hit another one, boom, and hurt you, and potentially knock you down. But I've not really seen him knock anyone out flush in ages. Hatton was the last person that I remember him doing that to, but that was a very long time ago. And Hatton is a fighter who leaves his chin up in the air, and that's why he got knocked out. And plus, he was just totally. I don't think his mind was in the Pacquiao fight, to be honest. But credit to Pacquiao. You know, everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Pacquiao, but I think that if Pacquiao goes up against Amir, I think Amir can survive a knockdown. What he'll do is he'll use them long arms and keep Manny Pacquiao at range. Do you guys remember when Muhammad Ali used to fight Joe Frazier? And in them days, if you look at the fights, you see Ali using his left hand, touching it on Frazier's head and keeping Frazier at range. Now, Pacquiao does not have anywhere near the reach of Amir Khan. So if Amir Khan just puts that hand out and keeps himself on balance and keeps his left foot forward, he is able to create a point of defense which now exists in Amir through Virgil Hunter, which would be very difficult for Pacquiao to get inside of and disrupt and get through them lines of defense. Because the first line of defense that Amir has is the long left hand. Because if he gets knocked down, all he has to do is get back up, use the long left hand, grab Pacquiao, rotate Pacquiao, kill a bit of time, move, use his footwork. And I think Pacquiao isn't the finisher that he was once as well. I don't think Pacquiao can finish. And I think that for these reasons, I think that it'd be very difficult for Pacquiao to stop Amir. But then another way Pacquiao could win the fight is if he lands several knockdowns in the fight. Because that builds points up for Pacquiao. But I don't think Pacquiao can outbox Amir, because we've seen Pacquiao get outboxed multiple times against good boxers. We've never seen Amir get outboxed. Irrespective of who he's been in against, he's never been really outboxed. He's been out-muscled, knocked out, but never really lost a round. Do you know what I mean? He's very rarely, very, very rarely loses a round. Whereas Pacquiao's lost rounds to Marquez, Morales, Barrera. He's lost several rounds as Pacquiao, but his power makes up for it. So, you know, these are the multiple aspects that I look at. And I think the ultimate thing is Khan's resume against Southpaws is tremendous. But Pacquiao obviously is a different breed of a fighter, a different level of a fighter. And I think that, I'm not going to say what prediction I would go for, but I think that, I'm going to say this, I think either Amir would win by points, or Pacquiao would win by a stoppage or a knockout. But I don't think Pacquiao can outbox Amir. That's the thing. But I'm not going to say if I think Pacquiao can knock Amir out. I think he can knock him down, but can he stop him? I'm not going to say if I think he can or not. I'm not going to say if I think Amir wins on points, because it's not a prediction. I'm just saying that they would be the most likely scenarios. And I just don't see a Pacquiao beating Amir on points out boxing. I'm going to say that off the bat that would not happen. Could Amir knock Pacquiao out? I don't think he could knock this Pacquiao out. I think if he faced the Pacquiao that faced Marquez, Amir has now become a counter-puncher with a bit of pop. And he could potentially catch and time Pacquiao coming in, because Pacquiao does leave himself exposed. But like I says, this new Pacquiao is a very conscious, a very cautious Pacquiao, and he has kind of lost that killer instinct. And I think that the Pacquiao of old had that killer instinct. I think that killer instinct is finished, and I think that Marquez took it out of him since the knockdown. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments in the section below. Subscribe as always. Pacquiao, brilliant fighter, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not knocking Pacquiao. I think he's excellent. He's one of my favourite fighters. He's a legend in the sport of boxing. And I just think it would be a good fight, to be honest with you. I do think it would be a good fight, and I'm not predicting anything. I'm not saying Amir would win. I'm not saying Pacquiao would win. It's not, because this fight's not made, and I'm not going to make a prediction like that. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think would win the fight? How do you think they'd win? And what do you think the different intangibles are? Anything that I haven't mentioned in a bit?